tortured, volatile, and possibly mad. Jack's a troubled man who seems to want to do the right thing. He's an introvert by nature, generally keeping to himself and not saying much. But if you find him in one of his moods, you'll be the unlucky victim of one of the most bone-chilling, sinister men around. Just be sure to bring your own axe. This is beyond madness. Danny's father, Wendy's husband, and the antagonist of The Shining. Jack is an alcoholic with a long history of abuse. His father was a drunk who abused Jack as a child. After Jack broke Danny's arm while drunk, he feared that he was turning into his father. Jack was a mean and emotional drunk, but he finally quit drinking. However, sobriety didn't help Jack with George Hatfield, a student at a school where Jack used to teach, whom Jack nearly killed when he caught him slashing the tires of his car. Jack was forced to resign from his job after the incident with George, so Al, his best friend, gets Jack a job as the winter caretaker at the Overlook Hotel. Jack is initially happy at the hotel and can feel himself healing after years of drinking and abuse. Jack begins to have strange experiences, and he senses something behind the shower curtain in room 217. Jack soon begins to manifest his trademark signs of drinking. He constantly wipes his mouth, is short-tempered, and swears a lot despite never drinking a drop. He begins to think about hurting Wendy, even killing her. Jack finds a scrapbook in the basement outlining the hotel's sordid history and grows obsessed with writing a book about the Overlook, even if it cost him his job and his friendship with Al, since Jack promised he wouldn't write about the hotel. Like the Overlook's last winter caretaker, Jack goes insane under the hotel's evil influence and tries to kill Wendy, but Jack's deep connection to Danny won't allow Jack to kill his son. Wendy fights back and saves herself and Danny. The character of Jack illustrates the connection between alcoholism and abuse and simultaneously underscores the potentially devastating effects of isolation on mental health. Most of all, Jack represents the profound connection of family, which Stephen King implies can't be easily broken by supernatural means or otherwise. Jack is a person that is struggling with himself. He seems to do his best, yet his temper usually has the better of him. At the same time, it could be that violence has always been a part of Jack, yet now it is amplified. It is a part of his character that eventually took over Jack's whole personality. King's novel investigates the complex ways in which the past acts upon the present, that the transformation of Jack shows how a child victim transforms into the adult abuser. This makes him a source of horror as it is a realistic, seemingly uncontrollable destiny. It's easy to like a character like Wendy Torrance. Characters like her are written to be liked, but characters like Jack Torrance are written to be liked as well as hated. King wrote Jack as a bad guy. He's the alcoholic dad who broke his kid's arm and is single-handedly ruining his marriage. Given the facts, we should hate him with every fiber of our being, but we don't. On the contrary, we feel for Jack and understand him. So how did King write such a complete antagonist who we sympathize and relate to? There are countless antagonists that play the typical villain. They all have a complex backstory, but it's never enough to allow you to relate or sympathize with. Even in real life, no one ever takes the side of the alcoholic who beats his family. It never happens. So what makes Jack Torrance different? Well, he's an extremely sympathetic character. When he breaks Danny's arm, we can see the instant remorse for what he has done. We can see that by no means did he intend to break Danny's arm, and I think that many people can relate to this in some form. Be it an argument where you said harsh things you didn't mean and are unable to take back, mistakes that alter the course of your life, or rage you acted on causing harm to others. Whatever your mistake, many people do things in rage without thinking, and Jack is a victim of his own anger. Jack lives with the guilt of what he has done daily, and we see the thoughts he has about himself. Jack constantly goes from current time to the past, where he comes home drunk and sees Wendy and Danny sleeping on the couch or in the crib with Danny in his cast, and he hates himself. Jack's character arc is the clearest example of the interplay between internal and external forces to create evil. Without question, Jack is a deeply flawed man, severely damaged by years of witnessing his father's drunkenness and rage, and doomed to repeat his father's mistakes in his own family dynamics. Whether these tendencies make Jack inherently evil on his own is subject to the reader's own definition of evil and tolerance of bad behavior, but Jack wants to be a better man than he is. He understands and regrets the consequences of impulsively breaking Danny's arm. Likewise, he regrets his assault on George and the loss of his job. Jack wants to do better and save his family because he loves Danny deeply. Even at the end of the novel, with Jack fully in the Overlook's thrall and having attempted to murder Wendy and Danny, his love for Danny comes to the surface one last time and urges Danny to escape while he can. Exterior forces push Jack over the line from deeply flawed to pure evil, but those forces play upon Jack's flaws to make that push. Were Jack in better control of these characteristics, these lesser evils, the external greater evils couldn't find a hold within Jack. Alcohol influences Jack to violently lash out on his family when alcohol is no longer available. The Overlook influences Jack to murderous rage and gives him alcohol in the bargain.
God, I'd give anything for a drink. Give my goddamn soul just a glass of beer.
On a basic level, The Shining is a cautionary tale about the dangers of addiction. When he arrives at the Overlook Hotel, Jack is a recovering alcoholic. The novel details Jack's drinking days during his brief tenure as an English teacher at Stovington Academy in Vermont. Jack and his buddy spend many evenings downing martinis. Jack's marriage deteriorates as Wendy waits up for him, with the infant Danny cuddled next to her on their sofa. Often these evenings end with fighting. Jack breaks toddler's Danny's arm when the child scatters his papers in his home office. But even this incident does not deter Jack's habits. Only after he and Al hit a bicycle, mysteriously left in the road with no apparent owner, do the two men resolve to clean up their act. These incidents illustrate the pervasive nature of alcoholism and the difficulty of overcoming addiction, even when the addict's life is unraveling around him. Alcohol is not Jack's only problem though. After he gets sober, he remains prone to fits of rage. His inability to control himself and his anger causes him to assault a student and lose his job. The Overlook Hotel recognizes Jack's weaknesses and exploits it. The hotel presents Jack with a scrapbook of the most notable moments in its history, and Jack fills the space alcohol has left in his life by spending hours in the basement reading newspapers, discarded invoices, and bills of sale. Jack is vulnerable and weak, and he literally becomes addicted to the Overlook. As the Overlook's manifestation in Jack's reality becomes stronger, the addiction to the hotel and the addiction to drink converge. With spectral service from Lloyd in the Overlook's Colorado Lounge, the combination of these two addictions prove deadly as Jack seeks his family's destruction and finds his own. But Jack is powerless to stop himself because he is an addict. The Overlook Hotel is literally haunted by the past.
I think a lot of things happened right here in this particular hotel over the years. And not all of them was good.
Scenes from decade-old killings appear in rooms. A party from the 1940s plays out over and over in the ballroom and the hallways. The hotel's fixation on the past appears to be part of the source of its power, but the past also feeds into the hotel's destruction. Like the Overlook, Jack is stuck in his own past. He remembers the way his father drank and abused his mother and siblings, and he seems doomed to repeat that pattern, just as the Overlook repeats his masquerade ball. Jack blames Wendy for not forgiving him for breaking Danny's arm.
As long as I live, she'll never let me forget what happened.
But his resentment and fixation on the event reveals Jack's inability to forgive himself for hurting Danny. He relives his interactions with George, trying to excuse his attack on George, because he was stressed from quitting drinking and George was vandalizing his car. Jack's entire relationship with the past is an attempt to retell the defining events in his personal history in such a way that allows him to avoid responsibility for his own actions. He didn't become an alcoholic because of his own wiring and family history. He became an alcoholic to cope with Wendy's nagging. It's all Wendy's fault, and breaking Danny's arm was an accident. Jack's obsession with the past makes him an easy mark for the Overlook. As Jack becomes immersed in the hotel's history, he dreams of rewriting the historical events he discovers during his explorations among the basement papers, just as he attempts to rewrite his own history mentally. As Jack becomes more absorbed in the hotel's influence, his grip on present reality deteriorates further. Jack and the Overlook are destroyed together, eliminating their future, because neither Jack nor the hotel can let go of the past. The characters who do survive the Overlook to face the future are the ones with less fixation on the past, and they are more mentally stable for it. Wendy remembers past events from her marriage to Jack and has occasional regrets for not leaving him sooner. However, she does not dwell on these events the same way Jack does. She doesn't try to revise their history into something better than it is. She faces the ugliness of the past and through sheer force of will tries to make the present and future better. Danny shows little interest in the past and has spare thoughts about his arm being broken. He focuses on his current love for his parents and his hope for his family to remain intact. His visions of the future terrify him and almost prove his undoing, but he is also able to face his murderous father with courage when those visions come true because he is prepared for them. Mr. Holloran's past is sketchily drawn because he is a secondary character to the Torrances, but he doesn't dwell on tragedies in his own history and dismisses visions of the Overlook's past as pictures in a book.
Mr. Holloran, what is in room 237?
Nothing. There ain't nothing in room 237.
Holloran, more than any of the Torrances, focuses on the task at hand in the present, and that focus enables him to save Danny and Wendy. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this analysis. Comment down below if you want me to talk about any other movie character. Thank you once again, and goodbye.